All right. How you guys doing? Oh, nice wind. Ah, thank you, Father. Ah, yes. Just don't mind me. I'm just enjoying this little breeze. Ah, good stuff. Hey, gang. So, today we're gonna talk about society, and well, everything revolves around. All these videos revolve around our relationship with the Father and what that represents. Um, how that correlates with our current living conditions, right? But uh, it has to do with society, right? So first, I guess I got to start with. I got to start with. So I've been working with glass, right? Been working with glass. Um, I was working with steel. Now I'm working with glass, and and it's a whole new world for me. I've been having to learn how to manage the glass and how to deal with the glass. You know, this project of mine that I like to call life. And 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 I found out something interesting just from the physics of just handling the glass. I found that a piece of glass, let's say for the sake of this illustration, let's say 3 feet by 2.5 feet, whatever. I'm not going to give you full measurements like 43 inches by whatever, 24 inches, let's just say. A fairly decent piece of glass, like what you would put in, what you would see on a size of a window, more or less, sort of medium-ish window, right? So when that piece of glass is together and not too thick, just like regular, not they go by mils, 5 mils, 2 mils, 3 mils. So let's say just a fairly not super thin, but thin enough. That piece of glass on its own can be handled, with care, can be handled without breaking. You know, just mind you, no framing, no nothing, just a piece of glass. But the moment the moment that you grab that piece of glass and you break it, and now those two pieces of glass, while it's all in one whole, is manageable to a degree, right? It's fairly manageable. But when you break that piece of glass, that same piece of glass, you break it in two. Now, if those two pieces of glass were to try to come back together, it causes friction, it cracks, it chips, and to a point where, and it's very, very fragile at that in that state. When there's no putting it back together, that's it. That glass is broken. So by you trying to like unify them, it rubs each other the wrong way, and it chips at each other until they both break apart. You know, that's just the nature, the physics of it all, right? Like even if you were to try to use glue, like a really powerful glue, and put them together, it would always be there would always be that crack in between. It's a point of failure. Like it's just a recipe for disaster on both ends. So from that little representation of how I found out that glass behaves, from a solid piece to a broken in half piece. um, I'm gonna go from that representation to uh, a downward spiral. Okay, a downward spiral. It's like they like to. I think you might have heard phrases, and folks use phrases of that situation's going. It's a downward spiral, and the reason why they utilize that is because if you can imagine. I don't know if you ever been to, like, when I was young, they used to have these in the malls. You walk in a mall or wherever, and they would have this big wooden or steel, made out of steel, funnel kind of a thing that like goes down, and people used to grab little coins and spin them around, and kind of like the toilet bowl effect, I guess. And it would spin around till it get to that little bit, that little hole, and it would lose its gravity, obviously bringing it down, and it would drop through the hole. It's a perfect uniform spiral on the way down to the hole. So downward spiral is basically like uh, a uniform gravity fed motion. It's like it's a perfect synchronicity, right? Of all those factors. And yeah, uh, a super powerful force like us using our hands can probably just intercept that coin from falling into that funnel and get it out of there, right? That would be an overnatural reaction to that problem, right? But the I'm going somewhere here, guys. The uh the natural the natural reality of that situation, without any interference, is that that coin, if you toss it just right, it's going to keep circling until it falls through the hole. That's just the natural function of that situation. So, society. Before I hit you with society, well, yeah, all society, right? So we have Sodom and Gomorrah. We have I hope my beard's not touching. Last time my beard was touching the mic. We have Sodom and Gomorrah. We have Babylon, Roman Empire, right? Right. All in which were societies at its peak end, and we know this to be in the Word. In the Word, it shows us how all of those societies reaching that peak uh, get to a point of obviously ultimate display of morality, moral corruption, you know, and it usually peaks at the part where children are being utilized as tools, as objects of sexual perversion. Okay, um, it's well documented. Whether you're reading the Bible or history books, we see the societies fall. The Roman Empire, like it was, from what I understand, uh, it was a normality to have certain folks that, like slave owners and certain folks that were in positions of power, utilizing children for you know all types of morally corrupt actions, right? And they would exchange it at they were exchange children like merchandise, you know. Uh, and in the Sodom and Gomorrah days, Babylonian days, we can see that there's all correlations there, right? Fast forward into our today 2025 uh, current date, and has been happening for several decades, or I mean, it's always been happening. But that peak that I'm talking about, I believe that we're right there, where it's already happening, and it's a normality within certain societies and all of the groups of men in power. It's just that it hasn't been completely forced upon. Uh, the veils haven't been completely open to the majority population as a normality just yet. But that's where we're at in this society. We are at the peaks end, where that is more than likely coming to a point of complete fruition, where there's you're gonna be completely wrong. If you come against these type of acts. Okay, it's coming, guys. It's coming. I mean, they have been grooming us and prepping us for such a thing. Okay, it started with and I have. I'm not speaking in a way of in a derogatory way. I'm just speaking. I'm just telling you a story. Okay, it started with the homosexuality, right? Just a man with a man having secret affairs, or a woman with a woman, and it wasn't morally accepted to a degree that started decades ago, yeah, in the beginning of this quote unquote civilization, little by little, they started normalizing it more and more and more, you know, to the point where just two dudes, two women or two guys could have, their intimate relationship out in the open. Granted, it was still somewhat frowned, or it is still very frowned upon in most moral correct individuals, right? But so then they would find their own locations, like I lived in Miami, Florida, right? And in Miami, Florida, right at the very peak of South Beach, there is a large homosexual population. In a lot of parts of Florida, Tampa, there's a homosexual population. West Palm, in Broward, Las Olas, you know, very known to be a homosexual accepting population. And so, like, these folks gravitate towards certain areas where they feel the most accepted. But the point I'm making is that it becomes accepted nonetheless, to the point that you keep pumping it and pumping it in your face. That has escalated to this whole. I guess I gotta watch how I verbalize things, because I want the message to get across. But it escalated to the uh, sexual individuals, where it's like a whole different level of this perversion of, and it's basically, it's no longer just a dude that looks like a dude with another dude that looks like a dude. Now it's a dude that wants to be a woman, and a woman that wants to be a dude. And that's the new level that we're in. And they have little by little desensitized you to the uh, immoralities of our creation, of what the Father, of what God created. Little by little, they have been desensitizing you to accept, and more in the society that we live in. That kind of behavior. They have been pushing it. This is the agenda of the devil, right? So why do I say that? I say that because these are the current times we're living in. The current times that we're living in, and we have to be aware of the details, the ins and outs of how the devil behaves. How he utilizes all of these tools and factors to even fool those that are called by his name. And guys, to take a water break, guys. I'm saying this because there is all clear signs and factors of the times we're living in, and there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us nowadays that may not be so well connected in the spiritual realm, may not have a great relationship, with our Creator, and but they have somewhat still of an upright heart to a degree. Uh, they haven't been corrupted to that level of accepting. It really bothers you. It really bothers these folks that the things that are going on, perverting, and it's in the eyes of our children, perverting mankind, to such a degree. Uh, and there's a lot of hoopla and a lot of back and forth going around, especially in the left versus right um, paradigm. population, folks that are still haven't completely unplugged and realized things for what they truly are. And and this message is for those folks on the quote unquote right side of things. Reality is that a lot of you folks are still deceived. A lot of you folks are still deceived in the sense that you think that there is a hope of fixing this situation. And that's the main reason why I started with the friction of glass, and how once things break and certain things break, they cannot be mended together. Society has gone in a downward spiral, just like the Roman Empire, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, just like Babylon. It all went down a downward spiral, a perfect uniform uh, motion, gravity fed action of destruction. There's no other, nothing. You can't fix it. What did Jesus, Yahuwah said? He said, if that tree is sick, it must be cut down at its root. The tree that bears no good fruit must be cut down. That's a sick tree. There's no fixing that tree. He said that for a reason. That was an analogy that he was utilizing. He was utilizing the analogy of the sick tree that wasn't bearing fruit, right? So that's what we need to understand. We need to understand that we're living in the times where that sick tree must be cut down. You have to make peace with that. Make peace with the reality that we're living in. There's no fixing this sick tree. This sick tree will burn to the ground. It will fall down like Babylon fell, like Babylon must fall, like the Roman Empire fell, like Sodom and Gomorrah fell. This tree must be cut down. And the quicker that we find peace, we find that the quicker that we find peace in that reality, the quicker we may get closer to our Creator. That is the only answer, guys. The only answer is to make peace with the fact that Babylon has to fall. Okay? We are at that peak's end where this is the reality we're in. And that's okay. That's a good thing, because if we read the story, the Father's people, the Father's real chosen people, thrive in the end. Okay? Don't be fooled by those. There's the next part of this message is don't be fooled by those. Question your surroundings and the groups of folks that you surround yourself with, because you could very well be part of a group of individuals that pretend to be uh, against this movement, against the whole corruption, but are very in cahoots and very supportive and very quick to take the aid of the enemy. And in a time of complete, utter destruction, in a time of real need, these individuals may very well take the wrong side of that fork end. That split in that fork split in the road. And by that time, it just may be too late for you, for your physical situation, but it's never too late for your heart with the Father. Okay, so I say this as, I guess, as a warning. I say this with love, as a guide. Question your surroundings. Stop trying to find your Creator. Stop basing your relationship with your Creator upon the group of individuals that you surround yourself with, because it's just going to be you and your Father face to face in that last moment. Okay, before the pearly gates, it's going to be you and your Father. Okay, and I'm not saying that you can lose. I'm not saying you can lose your salvation. I'm not saying that. But I don't want my Father to look at me and say, "Hey, man, what you doing down there?" You know, maybe you shouldn't have done that, or better yet, we suffer from the things that we will pay the price here on earth as well. So I want to be saved here and over there, but nevertheless, my my commitment will never fail with my Creator, because I don't fear man or the devil. I fear the one that can destroy and put my soul in eternal fire. That's the one I fear. So anyone, guys, that is deviating you, anyone that is deviating you from a real relationship with your Creator, and is driving your focus more into the difficulties of the physicalities of this world and the reality we're living in, is not guiding you correctly. You need to be in tune and in guide of your Creator in spirit and truth, first and foremost, beyond anything else. And then those that understand the way that you understand and have a true relationship with with God, will gravitate together, because the Father will bring His people together. So that's just something I've had in my heart for about a week, almost a week, like a few days, at least 3 days, and there was other details and stuff, but this is just the way it came out. Again, the message is still the same. It's just the Spirit of the Father gives me different angles on how to explain things in order for people to grasp what the message is. So bless you guys again, and I'll catch you on the next one.